Great. It is May 22nd, 2017, about 1:36. We're here for the policy committee meeting. We have a full house today. You have me as well as Rob Kim committee members. You also have two other school board members, Mark Sirota and the school board president, Dr. Rabinowitz is here, and a number of administrators, Michelle Clegg, Brenda Bray, Tom Segafus, Chris Horn from the high school, Ava Morrison, our solicitor Canaris, and Dr. Wheeler, as well as Brooke Evans. We also have three community study members from our high school, Becca, Emily, and Sean here as well. So let's get started. We have, I don't believe, any announcements or communications this afternoon. Okay. And the minutes for the policy committee meeting from April 25th. If there are any modifications, we'll send them over to Brooke. Otherwise, we'll look to approve that, I guess on June 5th, or are we gonna, the next, one of the legislative meetings here that we have in June. Okay, so on the schedule today, we have a number of regulations and policies for review. Trying to figure out how to do this. I would like to get, I don't know if we have a lot to talk about transportation. I definitely want to get that one out of the way so we have it on the agenda. So we can start with that and then we'll move around a little bit so we can make sure that our administrators get out of here. So let's first start with 810 transportation. As most people in this room are aware, we have been looking at this the policy and then this regulation since at least November. And we hope that this is the last review of the regulation so that we can put it on a legislative agenda and get it approved by the board. Okay. So after our last policy meeting, we had decided to eliminate some of the attachments. We had 5 attachments originally, and we have decided to eliminate it to only one attachment A, and that looks like that has been done. And I know, Michelle, when we had talked last time at the last policy committee meeting, I think you were going to talk to the elementary school principals or some of the principals to review all of this.
Yes.
And make sure that it was consistent with the handbooks, is that right?
Yes, and the one question that came up from the last policy meeting that I did pursue with them was the idea of the emergency permission to ride another vehicle may be granted by the student's principal for emergency purposes. You had brought up the example of, well, I needed for my own son a sitter, and is that considered an emergency? Is that the language we want to use? What they recommended would be, for the handbooks and consistent with the policy, would be permission to ride another vehicle may be granted by the student's principal for rare situations.
For rare situations.
That way, yeah, they just felt that was a little broader to allow them the flexibility to determine whether or not it's an emergency or not, because emergency can be interpreted differently. So they like rare situations.
Okay.
And I think it's
discretion of the principal.
At the
right,
right,
and
absolutely.
that's what it says. And then that does discourage we're all going on this bus for a birthday party, or we're all going on this bus for other
only
things.
once a year. That's pretty rare.
Pardon me? times what, 80 students?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to interpret it that way.
Right. I see what you're saying. Well,
Again, discretion of the principal.
Absolutely.
Extraordinary sometimes.
extraordinary.
So she vehicle may be granted at the sole discretion.
It's the third paragraph down.
Sorry, Renee.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say anything.
Let me pass it. Yes.
Sorry, it's really hard with this. Yeah, you can't pull up. It's hard to, I don't have a very big window here. Yeah. Because
There
there's
it
kind of
is. There
three
it is.
paragraphs that don't.
Yep, oh, right there.
So permission to ride another vehicle
Yeah.
may be granted at the sole discretion of, cross out the body. The student's principals for, under extraordinary circumstances.
You don't need to designate, right? I mean, if the principal's not there, we know that it would be a designee.
And then need a period.
The other question that came up, Sarah, was the idea of students in grades K through 8 are only allowed to disembark and board at their designated stops.
Right.
And then 9 through 12 may board or disembark from any established stop on their assigned route. And we agreed to that language. I did double check that. Brenda also
Great.
confirmed that. It would be impossible to monitor kids getting on and off. So.
Particularly at the end of the day, and I checked with some other districts around us as to what they're doing.
Good, okay. And I think one of the other things that we talked about in here too was about the insurance and private use of vehicles. And I thought that Brenda and Ed was here from the solicitor's office last time. I thought that was something that we discussed about whether we were doing that at all. And I saw that the language stayed in the regulation.
In the regulation.
Yeah, there was,
Was driving of students by by district club, sponsor, employee, and or volunteer. Whether or not the district's insurance carrier covered that or if it should be removed.
right, that was just the question of whether we should keep all that language about the insurance in there or not. So I guess we could just double check and make sure that that is right. That would be, that's not something that we should hold up the AR for. If we know that we can delete that, then that's just a deletion that we'll present at the next.
But that's in the AR.
That is in the AR, yes.
Thank you.
So I just want to make sure again that it's under the certificate of insurance. Driving of students by district level, just as Michelle said. So. All right.
Just have a couple of grammar and what actually we'll stay on the insurance. So under the reporting of claims, it states that it should be reported to the principal and or director. I think it should be also noted that it should probably go to the director of transportation as well. It just seems like a logical addition to that. Yes. I know this.
Yeah.
Well,
This is the operator's director, which may or may not be a director of transportation.
Exactly. So that's just that if you want to keep someone in the loop, it would be the director of transportation in case there wasn't.
do we need to have? Let me check with the insurance, actually, I'm not sure.
Okay.
And it's an excellent point, but usually most certificates of insurance where we're named as additional insured and those type of things are really in the business office because of the insurance risk. So,
Okay. And at the bottom, under the use of recording devices, or the use of recording devices, we just have buses, which is just the school vehicles. And there's a couple of times where I think that change hasn't been made. There's a couple of times where buses is actually a bus, but there's other times in which the buses should probably be changed back to vehicles
vehicle.
to make it more consistent. So I don't know, Ken, if you're willing to do that, but there's a couple of times where it is referring to a bus. But right
So
there,
change it in the title.
In
That
that
should be
title,
definitely
that should
vehicles.
be, yeah.
the policy does,
Is there a way to do a search for buses?
there it is.
You got that?
In board docs,
You just press Control F, you should be able to find all the buses.
But, Bert, you have an application.
oh,
You need to underline
You can just press return, or go to the next one, there you go. So, that's fine.
So change all those?
Well, that one should be fine, because you have.
Because you also have school vehicle.
Yeah,
And this one?
that should probably be vehicles, assuming. I'll let our solicitor comment on each one, actually.
Do we do them on other buses? Are we gonna have your recording devices on things other than buses?
That's an excellent point. I guess it would be, we do not have them in vans. We have them on buses of various sizes.
The same school buses and other vehicles. Other school
It's
vehicles.
already sort of captured and in other locations, but.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
All
fine.
right.
You're right. I agree. You need to underline vehicles.
That's all.
We're good?
If you want to review all the others, if there's a.
There are some more.
Hold
All
on, we
those
do all
little,
of these.
little bars, little bar.
This one?
School buses, I think that's right. You want that need to be named too?
The instruments.
It probably should be vans.
Francis,
So,
Vehicles.
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 So there's no school vehicle that's large enough to transport these things? That doesn't seem right.
Well, it depends upon how many you might have on a bus, how many students would be carrying.
Although it is under the students may arrive like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it's okay.
Okay. Passengers in school. That's buses. Vehicles. Keyboard player.
I know. Those are cross outs anyway.
You got it?
This one?
Keep scrolling.
Hang on, right there, wait, that second one, there are a number of exceptions specific to school buses, including that one being the following. And then right in bullet A, it's talking about other vehicles. So do these exceptions apply to more than just buses? Or not?
Yes, but not limited to school buses. Any vehicle weighing over 10,000 pounds?
But I think-
I'll have to check with that. I'll have to check with
Yes, I think, but I think that as written anyway, there are a number of exceptions specific to school buses should be.
Am I leaving these be for now?
It's
These
fine,
three?
I'll have to check with them, get back on that.
Okay. Alright, so we'll just, so the idea is to have,
There's a couple of other, I'm sorry,
Okay.
if we can get these, I apologize.
We were there already, that's where we
Yeah.
started.
Oh, and these were, okay, all right, so I'll save those changes.
So for the legislative meeting, Sarah, we can put this
we'll
on.
put on 8:10 for approval. So that's, Art, do you want to have this on the first meeting in June or the second meeting? Because the
One of the sports, when did you get this going for sports?
That's the,
June 5th?
So why don't we just wait till the second meeting?
Okay. Yeah,
It doesn't
so,
matter, right? I mean, is the second meeting gonna be less intensive?
It's, there will be a lot of motions.
Yeah, but the finance we go for 2 hours.
That's fine.
We can
do that. So June 12th.
Yeah.
okay. So, yeah, so the month of June is unusual for our school district. We have 2 school board meetings. We normally only have 1 school board meeting per month, but we have 2 legislative meetings the month of June because we need to have a meeting prior to graduation so that we can approve the list of graduates and have graduation. So that's why this is an unusual circumstance. So, okay, so we will be looking at unless there's an exception or reason, we will be putting on the motions for policy on to June 12th. 14th? 14th, okay. that's
It's
it.
a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, right, the Wednesday night, because we have graduation either Monday or Tuesday.
Monday.
Monday is graduation, yeah.
Hopefully. The plan is Monday. Okay, so 8:10 will be on for approval. We'll just double check for the insurance and just make sure that the
Which one?
bus and vehicle is in the correct.
Where's field trips?
We'll do that. That's 121?
It's 121.
Okay, it's not like, let's, could we do that next?
Yes,
week?
yep, exactly. Yeah.
They're combined.
Okay, so the next on the agenda that we're gonna take, are policies 121, 121.1, 122, and 231. This is involving kids going on trips outside of and inside even the school district. So class trip, field trips. These policies right now are all separate. And the curriculum department has been reviewing all the different trips that we do to determine, thank you, or to propose some changes.
So we've given you a hard copy, this is the first reading, and we made some changes and we color coded them, they're going to show up on what's in front of you. For the point of discussion, we did combine here 121, 121.1, and 231. 123, which is co-curricular activities, is not combined with this, however, when you read through co-curricular activities, it's mainly for the purpose of definition. We might want to discuss that at the next.
122.
122, I'm sorry, Michelle, 122.
Okay, and so this is for the policies, not the regulations that we're talking about.
We are in the process of developing administrative regulations and we'll share those, so.
So this is identical to what's on here?
So,
Or is
this is,
Same.
yes, it's just that it's the same, there's, but this is color coded, it will be easier for you to follow. What we did is, as we combined them in red or proposed changes and in blue are points of discussion. And I apologize, I don't know what the protocol is here, so we just.
Oh, that's fine. I think my board docs, is your board docs working? It is, okay. I was trying to take a look at our current ones. Okay,
For some reason, the strikeouts are not showing in board docs.
okay.
The strikeouts that are in the big lines worksheet.
So we took 121, 121.1, and 231, and I have to credit Chris Warren, who is our coordinator of Allied and Performing Arts, and he is heavily involved with what we're now proposing to call district-sponsored student travel, because he has a lot of, in his departments, there are a lot of trips going out. So in combining 121, 121.1, and 231, we recognize there are different types of trips. So we have the language around classification of trip types. We have field trips, class trip, district-sponsored outside events, and student competitions. And so we thought that would make it easier rather than have, like, and when you compare the different policies, the language wasn't always parallel. So this, you know, like there were two, for example, under authorities, delegation of responsibilities, there were different, slightly different pieces of language, and so we took one of the pieces of language to cover all of them. They were very, very similar.
Hey, did something change since Friday? So this does look different than this. That was supposed to be.
No.
Any changes? No.
The strikeouts are not visible on board docs.
They
There's some
actually, no.
extra letters and everything. Like, for instance,
Where's that?
classification of trip types.
That was
This goes
shared.
through E, and this one on
I-
the board docs goes to F.
I copied and pasted the whole document that she shared with me and uploaded it as a fresh
It's
one.
just the bulleting.
It starts with B.
Goes B's.
It's,
The wording, the words are the same, the
Okay.
bullet numbers.
The bullets
it
are
did
off.
accidentally renumber when it was
Yeah.
copied.
Yeah.
Field
Yeah.
trip, and then
Yeah.
it starts with B instead of A.
And it's not tablet.
Got it.
So, yeah.
But we'll just do, well, we have this and we can get it straightened out, so maybe we just refer to the hard copy and make notes on that, and then.
Brooke, how do I find 122? 122, Michelle, was the other one?
Co-curricular
How do I
activities.
find that on
If
board
you
docs?
type in co-curricular activities, you probably should be able to find it.
Where are you doing?
Or just go
Actually,
active.
active policies, look at
I
which
don't do
one.
the act, see, when I put policies, I just see policies on it, that's great. I don't see act.
What's on the, you might want to open a new, go ahead and check.
If you go in
I have opened
policies,
the two tabs.
Policies,
there's
action.
a drop down under the policy tab.
This is-
Oh, policies.
Act.
Oh, there we go, yes,
There
right.
we go.
I don't know why you would want to consolidate 122 into.
Well, my concern is that district sponsored outside events in 122
They're
sounds like there's overlap, so I just want to read that and see if I'm wrong.
122 is curricular and co-curricular activities.
They
It doesn't
actually,
have anything to do with travel.
and it actually is more of a definition of what that is.
Yeah.
There's only one place in 122 where we would suggest a change, and we would propose that, and we don't have to discuss it this time, that change would simply be where it indicates student responsibility for cost, which we can put underneath ARs for this new 121.
Okay. So that'll be resolved next time, it sounds like.
Okay, so I'm just pulling up all the other.
Ken, are there any legal issues when we cross state lines? Because on the second page, we're discussing all trips beyond 100 miles or overnight would additionally be approved by the superintendent, but from an insurance and legal, I mean, certainly you can get to Delaware and Maryland in less than 100 miles. Do those need to be board approved from school code?
Not for school code or anything. You might want to look at your insurance policy.
I'm going to follow up on that. We discussed that this morning at cabinet, so.
I don't know why it would though. I'm not sure. I mean, if it was, I mean, I think managing the crossing of the country, I don't think managing the crossing of another state.
The 100 miles, is that just a made up number? or is it-
That is 100%, Ava Morrison made up that number. It could be, I didn't. And Chris Warren, we co-made it, but it could be 75 miles. But just simply to indicate it is a trip of some substance. So currently the board language is out of state, but that doesn't seem logical because New Jersey, for example, is quite nearby. If I were going to Trenton, to the aquarium, would I really need to have, go through the board approval process that we currently have for that? And so what is the distance that might be recommended regarding superintendent board approval for overnight and trips that are more than a certain number of miles? Could be 75, New York City is 80 miles, so that might be
That might be a good.
a good
That
number.
might be a good, yeah.
Well, right now,
DNDC,
all
they
of
are.
them need to be approved.
Well, but except that actually, even though that was a policy that came into being in 2015, and I think under when a lot of policies came through, it was never really shared, and we have not ever had the practice of approving every single field trip by the board. It's done administratively unless there's something that is out overnight or used to be out of state, obviously out of country.
Yeah, I don't really see why the board would need to approve every field trip to wherever, yeah, and nature centers and
You
the
don't.
like, right,
I don't know.
right, and and that's where it shouldn't, right,
What currently says is that everything, I'm not saying you need to continue to do that.
right.
So should we change that to 75 miles with that? And then we'll wait for Board of Spray to follow up because there are any insurance reasons. we
No,
can see.
you know that's what you.
That's more than New York.
All I'm saying is you need to get board approved
The
I
other
think
thing,
we would want to approve both.
in New York.
so then that would be beyond 75 miles.
Yeah,
It's Baltimore.
yeah, how far?
Okay.
I'm not kidding.
There's a lot of
Camden is not.
That doesn't require.
Yeah, it's over on there. I have two other questions about these paragraphs. One is, should number of students be a factor in whether the board needs to approve it? You know, if there's 200 students going, even if it's short, is that something we want to approve? I'm just checking the number of
I
students.
don't,
is a
I don't
factor.
think so,
Okay.
because there are many that are trips that we do year after year after year, regular field trips, if you will. I would hate to restrict that.
Okay. And sentence in this paragraph.
Actually, can I address the sentence? So we're still in the same paragraph that is discussing the mileage. We would like to actually submit a change to that based on a conversation we had this morning. Here's my proposal is, all student travel will be approved according to administrative regulations, and then we can do the approval change in administrative regulations. If you name specific people, it can get complicated because names of positions change, and so this way we can handle that through ARs.
Okay, that approves as set forth in administrative.
Yep, according to, or as set forth by administrative regulations, and we will bring those forward probably at the next policy meeting.
Can we move on to the next paragraph? The first sentence.
Yeah, it should read, no student travel, no student travel may be planned that places undue financial burden on any student or parent or guardian. It used to read no class trip may be planned, and we're simply changing the language of class trip to no student travel may be planned.
Wait, read the sentence again?
No student travel may be planned that places undue burden. No student travel, because that's the name of the policy, may be planned that places undue financial burden on any student or parent.
What do you mean by undo?
So when we always have to ask if there
Next
is,
sentence.
yeah.
What?
The next sentence. What did I don't know if that word.
So that was the old wording, we
I
didn't
see
change that.
Yeah.
The only thing we're changing in that whole entire sentence is instead of no class trip, no student travel may be planned.
But that sounds like if there's an undue financial burden on one student,
We have to make provisions for it.
that's not it.
The next
You
sentence
have
says
to
that.
get through the next sentence before you realize that's what it means. I agree, that's why I don't like the word.
I don't like the word I use for a sentence.
Good look at that. It's good.
Well, or if, I don't know if there's any.
So why don't we
figure
just
out
strike
the
that
wording.
sentence and just say appropriate provisions are to be made?
Because of,
Strike that whole
Yeah,
sentence.
so I'm very interested in the conversations we have at some board meetings regarding which ones we pay for, which ones we pay some. That's going to be, is that this or is that the other?
That's 122, I think.
It's actually going to be administrative regulations, what we pay for, not policy. And that is much more complex. We're drilling down to that, and I think we'll have a proposal that works, and we're happy, I can share that.
One great example is in the June FBLA trip.
Right. Where we are simply paying for the student chaperone to go,
Right.
and
No
students.
travel, no restriction.
But it's not still be considered a district-sponsored outside event. And I think that's one of the reasons why all district-sponsored outside events were to be approved by the board, because they were all involved at some extent spending money.
Not all district-sponsored outside events are part of budgeting. So for example, the German club goes to Otto's to have a German meal after school. The district's not paying for that. And there are many outside events that occur, and the district does not pay for it.
Other than, when they pay
The
the
salaries.
salary, the stipend, or whatever.
Correct,
that's correct.
So there's always financial.
Although, that's not necessarily true, because as a German in my capacity as a German teacher, I've taken students to a restaurant and wasn't remunerated for my time outside of the school day because it happened at 4 p.m. as part of an extension of the curriculum.
Wouldn't that fall under 122, which is co-curricular activities?
Yes.
Which we haven't
is the
gotten to.
definition, but there's really, there's not a whole lot of guidance in 122 policy
Approve
definition.
anything that's funded in whole or part by the district.
Yes.
I think what you might want to consider is for district-sponsored outside events, well, the ones that meet the first, the ones that are district-sponsored outside events because they're funded in whole or part by the district, either indirectly or directly, those should be board approved, and the ones that aren't, you don't necessarily need board approval for.
So then we would want to approve, there would be a lot of trips that we would be approving through a motion. For example, with that, what the example I used of the German trip, would that be a
No,
board?
the one that drove trip to August.
Yeah,
No, because you're not, the district's not incurring any additional costs.
but if it says, but it is a, so here the language says, directly or indirectly, the district is indirectly incurring cost because they're paying for the teacher's salary.
No, because they're already, that salary's already been spent. Right. They're not paying additional.
Not additional.
But there could be additional cost depending upon insurances is what I'm thinking.
No, I think you're okay with a district-sponsored outside event where it's only, you got the supervisor going, but you don't have any extra additional expenses, you're fine, not having that board approved. But if you're funded in part by the district, it should be board approved.
One, which is what it says, right?
No. Currently, it just says it has to be 100,000 way over there.
Because student competitions
I think you
would
just
all have
add,
to be approved.
you just need a sentence at the end of the paragraph after the 100 miles would say, additionally, all district-sponsored outside events funded in whole or part by the district require board approval.
Must
Oh,
be
yeah,
approved.
Since we're on live on camera, I was kidding about it, it always feels very good. It's actually just giving us too much watching.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. That was very true.
In whole or part.
By the
And then we can still
superintendent.
get after in the ARs what is funded in whole and or part.
Right. And you also know that there's something that you dropped. Well, participation is denied to students who demonstrated basically violating policies and rules, in other words.
We do have that.
You do, I didn't see it.
Yeah, it says, that students who.
It shall be more
No, we just had it. It's here. Appropriate provisions are to be made for those students who might be eliminated for participation because of finances.
No, I'm a kid, I've been suspended or something for some violation, therefore I'm not permitted to go on a trip.
In the old policy.
In the old policy, it says participation in district-sponsored outside events is not a right, may be denied to any student who's demonstrated disregard for the policies and rules of the district or the school. That sentence got dropped.
Okay.
I think I would change that sentence to who has
And what would you
previously
change?
violated policies and rules of the school.
So you can never go if you.
That's what I'm saying, that's why I think you may be denied to a student.
Maybe, yeah,
Maybe.
that gives us the discretion, or,
And then specifically what they are.
Right.
Right.
What would constitute.
This is a, people
Do
don't
we-
get to go to.
When a student is suspended, aren't they suspended from all activities and school events? Is that not under a different policy regulation? Do we need to also state it here?
I was under the impression that there were things where, you committed certain offenses and it was, you're suspended and you are not allowed to go on the trip to Disney World, or you are not allowed to go to the prom, or you are not allowed to go to whatever. I thought that was the way things were.
Yes.
I didn't think it was just a question of, oh, your suspension overlaps with the Disney trip, therefore you're not allowed to go to Disney. I didn't think that was the rule.
Within the discipline and the letters that are provided to students when they are suspended, it says that they're not allowed.
right, but that's where, do we do the additional, so the suspension doesn't occur, it occurs, it's a 10-day suspension that occurs in April, the Disney trip is, in June, or whatever it is, okay?
It's
it's-
still doing the Disney trip.
Right, so that's the question, I guess, is that do we do that? Do we say you have a 10-day suspension now and the Disney trip, even though it's months off? You can't?
That's not,
Right, okay.
So then my question is, do we have to add it here since it's already taken care
Within the suspension.
I think, I really think we need
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Okay.
of. Okay, we'll add it back in. And we'll change the wording to maybe deny.
It's a violated, demonstrated versus violated response, right?
Yeah, I think demonstrated disregard is, yeah, I think violated, who have previously, who have violated.
Because what you're saying is that a student could violate something and then also be denied, be suspended, and then additionally,
During the term of their suspension.
I thought that there were certain things that they said if you were caught doing A, B, and C, you will. And it's because there's also the ones about not walking at graduation. People were not permitted to walk at graduation for offenses that were committed a month and a half earlier.
not that much.
Well,
You can have that.
I've never heard of that. In the last 3 years I've been here, I mean, I've not, if they were removed.
Why don't we check with high school on this, because, check with high school on this.
it might be a month.
Pretty sure there were times where.
This was like an expulsion waiver.
Maybe, okay, maybe. I still would put it in there.
You select it in there.
For who are, then it would say who are suspended during any period applicable, time period applicable, I would still put it in there that, because we get challenged on this a lot.
I would
We
imagine.
need a regular.
People are gonna say, wait a minute, I did the same thing that this person did, and I'm missing this trip, and that person didn't miss the trip. And just because of when my suspension occurred,
Where is that rate? Is it in here right now?
It's not currently,
it's in the old super.
231.
I would say there may be a case, I mean, for example, taking a student at distance who's, and I would, I guess, Michelle could weigh in. Could there ever be a student who would be denied a field trip for safety reasons? Because,
Can I ask a question regarding board-approved travel? Do we want to add something for if something happens on the trip? Something happens on the trip, should there be part of the policy that would mandate the removal of that student from the trip by their parents?
Well, you have it, you have it there already.
We have that they have to follow the rules,
Yeah,
but
subject to the same disciplinary measures. You could say, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Actually, that's a good idea, saying additionally, the student may be
so,
required
as,
to terminate their participation in the trip.
subject to same disciplinary measures during the regular school program and maybe subject to.
I mean, it's already in there that in paragraph number 2, looking at 291.
The existing 251?
Right, they're subject to disciplinary consequences if they're committed during this field trip.
Yeah, and that's in this one too.
What I think what Chris was saying is he wants to be very clear that not including, he might get either sent home or told to have your parents come pick you up too.
If you're in Baltimore or you're far away from your
Or on a
yeah,
trip,
pick them up.
It's a May.
In May,
It's a May.
if you're in a week like.
But I mean.
as a teacher sponsoring that trip, I would love that backing because it has not happened here, but colleagues have gotten stranded in Wildwood, directing groups where someone broke the alcohol policy and that student needed to go. And they picked up the phone and called mom and dad. They said, well, we're not coming to get it. And now you're there with a student that potentially created an unsafe environment with other kids.
That has occurred on foreign travel too, where a student or a parent actually came and picked up a student, but that's part of the,
Don't they sign the
they sign that,
Right.
that's part of what the agreement the parents sign, saying that they will do that.
Which we are currently having reviewed again with insurance and legal.
It does open up a budget for the forums to put that possibility.
Well, that's why I worded it to, the student may be required to terminate their participation in the trip. Well, that could mean a number of things.
And may be required to terminate participation.
Yeah, it could mean their parents are coming again, it could mean they're sent home or escorted home, it could mean they are put on
Put on there.
house arrest.
I have done this personally.
Ken, what was the language the student may be required to?
Terminate their participation in the trip. Or the student's participation in the trip in each other.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I have a question about something a little further down. Down.
Hi. Sorry, what did you say?
Can I move down to something under delegation of responsibility, or we still up here?
Yeah, I think you can.
Under bullet 1, designation of a staff member who shall be the board employee. I don't remember seeing the term board employee ever before.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is from the old.
District.
I recognize it's not
Oh.
new wording, but what does that mean?
District employee, I think is.
Yeah, that should be district employees. I don't know if we have any board employees.
Now we're all bored.
Yeah,
Either we all
all
are.
right, technically.
And you can see 2, 3, and 4 points of discussion. We're not sure why they're there because they seem redundant, but.
Where are you?
So under 1, 2, 3, 4, number 1 makes sense, then 2, 3, 4 were points of discussion.
Unless you're saying regulation needs to cover these things.
Including number 4 being accommodations.
Yeah.
That doesn't need to be a policy.
The policy is
Policy
saying.
says there shall be a regulation that covers it.
That govern these.
Okay.
Is that the same out of all 4 or 3 policies that we're looking at? I see it's in 231.
This covers everything.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, it's the same, because I know the language between some of these are.
They're slightly
Similar?
different.
Yeah.
Yes, so we chose one, we just went with one of the previous.
They went with one in 231, which is the most expensive.
Right, okay. Preventive war after terrorism.
Actually, I was going to comment. So that
Yeah.
language isn't in this current policy revision. So I do like the idea of combining and kind of just clarifying for us, so we don't have to keep looking at different policies as to where the trips fall under. But and I think we recently worked on this in policy in terms of adding the language that the superintendent has the discretion to cancel based upon acts of war, terrorism, et cetera, et cetera.
I think that should be in here, and if it's not, it needs to
But
be.
I don't see it.
Okay,
This
it's
one.
in.
It's in 121.1.
Yeah.
But didn't get copied over
Yeah.
into
I
this.
think it's in 121.
It sounds like we probably need another round of auditing the old policies to make sure that all the
Sure.
provisions made it.
I can do that, I did
Yeah.
it quickly, they covered it, they did a nice job here. This is really well done. I think it just needs, we can easily go through and make sure everything's covered, but this is a good plan, it's a good format.
Yeah, I think it's gonna make it easier to have one policy to look at for the bulk of student travel, at least.
So we'll make the suggested updates and.
I'll take a copy.
Okay.
We
Would
need
you
an
mind
amendment.
emailing us?
I'll email you.
Mr. Roos, could you make those edits in board docs though for the?
Oh, it's in, is it in Word?
It is in
It
order.
is.
Yes, you might wanna take it out and then put it back
Put it
in.
back in so
Yeah,
that,
easy.
I'll resend it,
I have already.
7 so that all the bullet points are correct.
Yep.
And you won't see the color coding, I don't know if you needed it,
I see it.
you do see it.
In Word docs?
Yeah. Oh, you do, okay. And then in terms of 123, which is mostly a description of what co-curricular is.
Or 122.
122, if I say it one more time, apologize.
It's okay.
Will we discuss that at our next policy meeting or?
Right, because that's the one thing with extracurricular and co-curricular, that's where you see the overlap with .4 student competitions.
Yeah, it's the
I mean,
cost piece.
That's where you're gonna see the
So we-
overlap here, okay.
And
And if I remember, it was a may or may not occur cost. It was a dubious, this could be charged to school district or not. It wasn't a one or the other.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the issues that we're having
Mhm.
as a board is that what are we covering? And we want to make sure it's equitable.
Mhm.
I guess that's the biggest problem is that, we're here like, oh, are you covering this field trip, this transportation,
Right.
or this not? And we just want to make sure that we have our set
Sure.
policy. So,
And that's, yeah, just to recap if I could, field trips during the day, pulling a kid out of school, curricular based. Class trips, the morale activity, you're bringing a whole fifth grade to Dorney Park. We'll skip number 3 and go right to 4 student competitions. That's your athletic contest, that's your marching band, students representing the school in or outside the school day. And then everything else was that district-sponsored outside event.
what is that?
Spanish club going to Cantina Feliz.
Okay.
Maybe a speech and debate thing, although that might be a competition. So it's just kind of a catch-all for everything else that
Okay.
happens. And that's where I was afraid that would inundate the board. Not that it shouldn't be very transparent, but there's so much of that happens that, quite frankly, I think the supervisor, the principal can sign off on. It doesn't occur cost.
Right.
So I worry about that district-sponsored outside event. If that comes to your table as a school board, that might inundate you. Because if it is outside the state, yada yada, then certainly it would go that route. But
Yeah, that should be signed off by
Yeah.
the administration.
Sure.
There's no reason that stuff comes to the board, in my opinion. So, we were wanting to sign off on the big trips.
Yeah.
The ones that are, the overnight outside of 75 miles or whatever. We're looking at foreign travel.
Mr. Horn, you just suggested that the number 3s don't incur cost, but as a risk, it says funded in whole or in part by the district.
So-
Are you suggesting that it should be specifically those that are not funded by the district?
I'm wrestling with, for example, Spanish Club. Spanish Club is technically funded by the district because you're paying the advisor. But does that trip itself occur cost outside of that one stipend? No.
If it's already in the stipend, that's not.
I don't think it
a cost
incurs
we have to
cost.
approve in the board. It's a new cost that we're approving as
Sure.
a board motion, to me, anyway, I should only speak for myself, but if we're approving a new cost as a board motion, that's something, if we already approved the stipend as part of the contract or as part of some other,
How are the students getting to the activity?
Usually done by, they're renting a bus or renting transportation to us and then divvying that cost up amongst whatever the participation fee of the activity is.
Much of our transportation that
So-
goes out is covered by students.
so are
And then
you,
that goes back to the question that you were discussing.
To have all of our trips run through the board will be
yeah.
Yeah.
an undue burden.
Well, that's what we have administrators doing that, and that's where that makes sense. That's the job of the administrators. Unless the administrator thinks the board needs to look at this because this is unusual circumstances or something like that. Okay, so. That's where with district sponsored outside events, are those ones that we're talking about that don't incur any cost, or could? They could if.
Well, the language
District
is,
sponsored outside events is defined, either you're funding it,
Right.
or you're supervising it. It's one or
Right.
the other.
but
Right,
it's
or
either
the other.
directly or indirectly.
Right.
We were saying we board approval for the ones that are funded.
Funded, but,
And not sold, not ones that are simply supervised.
right,
And no additional cost, you don't need that.
right.
I think that's what they were saying.
That's what I was getting at, the additional cost specifically, that to me feels like a requirement.
What would be, I'm trying, reaching into all of my student travel.
Yeah.
What would, for an example of what would be funded by the district in that case?
So it doesn't sound like fun, but it wouldn't be that hard to go back through, a year or two's worth of board motions and see.
Yeah, we have to do that.
Yeah,
I can speak somewhat intelligently about it.
Yeah, we're gonna deal with it.
I don't think, reasonably, anything that's gonna incur a lot of board costs is gonna hit that additional check of that outside 75 miles per overnight. There's no trip to Cantina Feliz that costing that much to the district, if at all. And nothing that Bob would sign off on, or,
For our exchanges, we provide buses to take students to the airport.
We no
which
longer do.
We're going to
We
eliminate that.
eliminated that already, but that is an out of, more than 75 miles and overnight. So like anything, like we were already covered with board approval for anything that's more than 75 miles or overnight. And so I can't think of an example of a non-overnight trip that's incurring additional cost. That isn't a something that where we would need to advise the board.
And then you might not need to have many boards for that. But you've been approving, it's not like season every now and then.
Yeah, but we don't approve everything. I mean, that's where it's
No.
just
No,
whatever.
we're approving overnight and out of state. That's what we've been approving.
This may not add anything to your, it is a practical matter, this may end up not adding anything. But it just means that if somebody says, well, can the district, chip in on this, the answer is, well, that's gonna require board approval.
But I mean, I could see a student group, for example, our connections group might want to go somewhere and require some district funding. So that would be an example of that.
Yeah.
And don't we, when a student goes to states or something, don't we send an adult with them?
Oh, yes.
We do.
Sometimes we
But
send
that's-
multiple
but that's-
adults with one
But
student.
you mean for athletic contests?
No, I'm talking about, let's say, we get
Not
a
just
team,
that.
Singing.
we get a team that goes to the states, the coach goes with them.
Or even if you have only 2 students going to participate, sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 teachers.
But that would be more than 75
Usually a little
miles or
similar to
overnight.
that.
Yeah, it's all overnight.
Yeah, but one of those things, those events travels around the country and just happens to be,
In Philadelphia,
yeah.
Then we would, and then that would be a case. I don't know if it's happened yet, but it could happen.
No, it's gotta be rare, is what you're saying.
Regarding incurring additional costs, it occurs to me that the provision that says that no one be burdened on students who can't afford it sometimes could be an additional cost to the district, depending on where that additional funding is coming from. We need to carve out some exceptions, some allowance or something for that.
So as part of the new field trip policy, or part of the new field trip form that a teacher would fill out, it asks them how a student who is having trouble funding that trip, how we're going to pay for that. And there is a couple options for them. One of them being, we're going to expect the district to pay for it, and that's where, as an administrator, if I see that, I go, well, wait a minute. And I would make the call yes or no. And then if it would go up above me and to Ava, and then perhaps if the answer is yes, then it automatically needs board approval. But there is a way to delineate that for the teacher, so you're not going in blind.
That sounds reasonable.
And through the admin rights that you're creating, there's only gonna be 2 times of the year where you can submit for trips.
Regular
October and,
This June and October.
student competition's always going to be.
right, that's what's gonna be
No matter what.
what. The June and October is gonna capture 95%
Yes.
of all field trips. Even if it's just an FYI to the board, whether it's requiring approval or not, with the database form that you've, skillfully put together, you could just print them out, and it could be an attachment, whether it's to a board update on the
Yeah, we'll
weekly
know
update
with
on
this
the
new,
agenda.
with this new protocol, we'll be able to capture precisely cost per substitute for any field trip. We've created a spreadsheet that will give us an overview of the cost.
So just sharing that.
Right, so we will have data now.
For budgeted.
Where people are going, when they're going, how much it's costing.
That'll be wonderful.
And I have to thank Ava and Chris because that was a yeoman's task and they completed it very, very nicely.
Sarah, will this go for review again next?
Oh, yeah, this is coming back.
or
We
first
are
reading.
not,
I know.
we are not close to, no, we
It's
need
not a
to.
first reading, it's just a review again.
Yeah, so we'll bring it back to the next policy meeting, assuming you guys can make the next policy meeting, I think it's what, June? Do you have it set?
It'll be up.
No, we don't.
Transportation took 7 months, so don't
We
worry.
can decide, we can decide.
Yeah,
when.
and I'm scared of that.
Christmas.
And I'm scared of that.
June 26th, that's what
Oh,
the date
sorry.
was. Okay, so we'll figure out when the next policy.
I predict Thanksgiving.
Okay. All right, so we'll bring this back to the next policy meeting with, and Ken's gonna look at it, you guys will look at it again, we'll keep making
And that will include a discussion of 122 as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, and we'll actually look at 122, if there's anything we need to incorporate. I guess this, I think we're simply gonna want to cross-reference it.
Yeah, and there's an eligibility for participation clause in 122 that's kind of interesting, that may be more general. It's limited to students who are enrolled in the district on a full-time basis unless mandated by law, so.
Okay. Alright, we'll look at that one again. With the goal that we have it in place for the beginning of the school year.
We are changing the protocol though, in order to change the
And that's
beginning of the
fine.
school year, we'll need to get on that.
Okay. And obviously, there might be some exceptions to the first semester here necessary, so that works. All right. Is there anything else from the two of you that you need?
No.
You're welcome to stay.
Thank you both.
No,
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you.
If you'd like to talk about dress and grooming or, food services. Do you want to
I
stay
have some
here?
things to say.
Well,
Hey,
thank you. All right. We can go back to the order that we have it here. Yeah, what do you need to look at?
No, the food service.
Food services, perfect. Okay, that's what we're going back to, is 808,
Okay.
so here we are. The last policy committee meeting, Kristen Deli came and we were talking about food services as well as the wellness policy. And then the plan was to, Ed in the solicitor's office, we're going to be reviewing. The wellness committee is going to take a look at it and then bring it back here after their suggestions. So this has had some hands and eyes.
The wellness is the next one.
Right, but yes, so right now we'll start with 808. We're gonna start with 808 because. Okay. And then specifically the AR. Was it 808? Why is it?
So we get here,
I guess the AR, because we didn't change, the policy wasn't changed. Is that right?
The admin reg
Just
having to
the-
do with how we charge, meal charging policy was the big change.
Right.
That's the information that Kristen provided. So on the policy, you go down to the link,
Yes. And this is the difference.
that's also in the AR.
Yeah. This is the.
Ran it by the principals, ran it by the groups, everyone is.
The idea,
agreement.
right, the idea is we don't want kids getting a meal and then going up to the counter and them saying, you can't have it, and then everything, they get shamed and thrown in the trash, and then
Right.
they get a piece of bread or something, whatever, you know, that's not what we want to do, so,
So there's no proposed change to the policy, this is all AR, right?
so this is the AR language. You can look, I can pull up the old AR here.
On my draft, I do have the cross outs for
For the policy.
Okay.
AR. So I have the new proposed changes at the top.
Okay. Thank you. I know I saw strikeout somewhere, and I'm like, I didn't click
It
on
was
the link, I just looked at the Word doc. Okay.
So the language is all, I mean, this is, it's all written in sort of present tense, not policy language, and it will be, shall be, maybe.
Right, we can modify this. It is kept confidential, students.
Is that language, what it is, or, you know, shall be kept confidential, is that tight enough, does that cover everything?
Yes,
Saying
we
that?
are absolutely rigid about that.
Okay.
Free and reduced lunch, the only information exists in Kristen's office and is not shared with anyone.
Yeah, so that should be shall be. Or can you get
So
a-
meal, so meal status, is that only free, is that what that means, free and reduced, or does that mean, you know, whether their account balance is negative?
I took
Or
it,
whether they
I
have.
took it to mean
Free
free
and
and
reduced
reduced.
lunch, because that's the confidential,
Okay.
confidential piece about that. In the past, we used to share that list with people, and that's absolutely,
Shall be kept confidential?
Shall, yeah,
So is meal status, Ken, is there a term?
Right.
Is meal status, is that?
define.
I would suggest to students eligibility for free and reduced lunch is always kept confidential.
Okay.
Do we want it to be more broad than that?
No.
Are we trying to cover, whether they're negative or whether they have?
I would be careful because if they get to the register and they start to have a conversation with the
Yeah, we have
student, someone could overhear it, saying you weren't keeping it confidential. I
I don't
would-
know
I don't know how you would handle
body
that.
language.
I would
A
say-
student's eligibility.
I don't know if you could live up to it.
Yeah, how could you keep it confidential?
Is
Yeah,
that
just do the-
capitalized?
let me just say, what we keep confidential is whether or not a student is identified for free and reduced. We don't distribute the list any longer. When I arrived in the district, when Kristen arrived, we were making that list available to counselors, to nurses, principals, and it's,
And meals.
and we're not allowed to do that. So that's the intent, that's what's kept confidential.
Always, or just?
Just shall be, yeah.
Shall.
just
Yeah, the
shall
whole,
be.
the whole document, I don't know if you want to bother,
Got it.
the whole document.
I can go back and do that. This time.
There's gonna be a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
So elementary school is, students are permitted,
For the regular reimbursement lunch.
Which, paragraph?
Right under confidentiality. second
so
sentence.
how do we work if kids are taking à la carte
Oh,
items?
meals. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Sarah, what was it?
I'm just thinking with the elementary school, if the kids are grabbing à la carte items and they get to the end of the line and then,
I think that this will be taken away, I would think. It says right there, you're not allowed to have à la carte if their accounts lack sufficient funds.
Why did the second?
Yeah,
I
it
don't-
seems like exactly against the thing.
No, if I may, having to do with the free reimbursable lunch, children are given a meal
Right.
and it contains all the components. Oftentimes, parents even put restrictions on à la carte and those type of things. So they could be being rejected, if you will, or told, no, you cannot have that for a variety of reasons on à la carte items. And the idea is not to have lunch shaming, as we discussed last month, and making sure that all the students are fed. And there's actually even a financial component, if you will, to that.
Sure.
As,
So
you know,
what happens to the à la carte items that they're not permitted to have?
typically the à la carte items are things that can be put back.
Okay.
Not always, but oftentimes they're,
Ice cream,
well, or
that's right.
ice cream just wrapped, or even fruit can be,
Yeah.
cleaned and put back, and those type of things.
From your confidentiality, I don't like that second sentence.
This,
Yeah, I don't know what that, it's intended to say, we don't treat everybody the same. We're gonna tell some people that they're not allowed to buy certain food.
Well, I think the first one is, again, and maybe that needs to be the clarification, when it refers to the reimbursable lunch.
What do you mean treated the same? What's the?
I,
Well, why don't we-
I don't think we need that sentence anymore. Maybe that was if people knew that they were on free and reduced lunch, but that's not,
Right, then I think we
Strike the sentence.
right.
We
I
take it out.
I don't have to track that change though, because this is all language, correct?
Correct.
That sounds good. So in middle school, I have the same question, because now we're talking about whole meals being taken away, as opposed to à la carte. And this is I get that this is kind of an impossible balance to strike here between not food shaming and not letting people just steal.
the thought is, and we've had the most problems the last few years at the middle school, and you'll notice that when you go on, it used to be that at the high school level, there was no charging at all. Every day, our information is updated with today's sales. The parents receive school messenger phone calls plus emails. And from what I've understood with Kristen, with other business administrators in the state, is that the middle school students are expected to be a little more responsible or cognizant for what's going on.
Does the student have a way to know before they get there what their balance is?
Not unless they check it ahead of time.
So it's not like they swipe, the only time they enter their number is swiping over, I don't know.
When they're checking out.
Well, this says they may charge one meal, so if they get to the register and they don't have sufficient funds for that meal, they will be permitted to charge it. But then they have to realize
The
that
parents-
tomorrow, unless there's been more money put in, you're not going to have the funds.
Or you
And
can
a
bring
call-
cash.
A call or something has gone to the parents.
Okay, that's noticed.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we're actually, Kristen actually suggested that we have the high school.
So what are we doing right now? What's the current practice at our middle school?
Students have been, and the board will see this, there's at least $1,000 again this year where students have been permitted to charge. We've also usually see that it tends to be family related, it's the same children or same situations that occur.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out what's gonna happen if we put this policy into place.
Well, this is
What's the reality gonna be?
The administrative regulation, and hopefully what will happen is that there will be,
Will this also then trigger a conversation with the family about applying for free and reduced if they're not eligible?
yes, and I believe actually it has, at least, and I know that the director of food service has often reached out. Sometimes it takes a principal to become involved on these.
But the point being, if a child day after day does not have money, that would trigger, we have an option for you, which is sign up for this
And there's also
plan.
There's also the situation where I do believe that parents are required to take care of feeding their children, and it could become a bigger issue.
Well, thinking of the child walking up to the food line, if there are several incidents of not being able to pay for lunch, I think that would trigger us to.
I'm fairly confident we're on it almost immediately, at least on the food service side. But we, sometimes again, food service works with the principal in ensuring that there's money available margin.
Sorry for the disruption.
I guess I'm concerned with the one lunch, like if we have a 12-year-old, right? I mean, that's what, not necessarily the most responsible of all of the ages. And comes up, gets their lunch charge, and then the next day, they didn't account for it, and so they're not eating lunch. I mean, that's what the reality is gonna be, right?
Well, again, they could bring money from home, or their parents could put money.
Right, but if they didn't, I mean, let's say, if people didn't pay the account in the first place, whether they were unable or, not responsible to do it, whatever the case may be, we're gonna have a sixth grader not have lunch the next day if they didn't do that.
Well, currently it would be anywhere between 6 and the high school student as
Right.
well, the 12th grader.
Yeah, I'm just doing worst case scenario.
Do we
Yeah.
give them a sandwich or something?
Currently, I believe Kristen was very clear about that. We were not providing alternative meals. What ends up happening is they are giving a complete meal.
What's the threshold on that?
Yeah, I mean, I just can't do one, I don't think, I think.
What would you
yeah.
recommend? And
I
what
don't
do you talk
know.
to?
I know.
3?
I know, I'm like, I don't know.
School week.
Help me, Rob, yeah. I mean, there could be situations where parents are out of town or something like that. I mean, there's all, I don't know, I mean, or just can't
Yeah.
afford it. I mean, there's all these different situations.
Well, if
that
they
I
can't
think
afford
about.
it though, again, going back to what Dr. Wheeler said,
Discussion.
Oh, the discussion needs to occur, it's just that, is the discussion occur after, like, the one charge? Like, it doesn't go, they get the charged, they charged the meal, and then they looked at their email, they didn't look at the email, they didn't have services because they couldn't afford to pay their phone bill, so they don't have access to email. I mean, I'm just trying to think of all the different scenarios, you know, that could happen. And so is one day gonna be sufficient to have that conversation and get money onto the account or to apply for the free and reduced lunch? I mean, is that enough time even to get through the free and reduced
Yes.
lunch for the next day?
Well, not through the free and reduced process, which is
Okay.
they finally file. But certainly if they put money on the account electronically, it's
Right.
there.
Right, it's just that the point is that they don't have the money to be able to do that. Then the next day, if they're gonna go through that application process for free and reduced lunch, they wouldn't be able to, their kid wouldn't be able to get money the next, or to have lunch the next day unless they actually have the money.
If we were to raise that to 5, what could be the financial cost shouldered by the district typically in a year?
Yeah, I mean,
I would have to.
Okay.
and that's where it's, right now, what's occurring right now for for people. I mean, is it that people are, do we have a group of people that are doing this for weeks on end?
Yes.
Okay, so that's where, I mean, I agree, we don't want that, we want to have the conversation, but at the same time, we don't want to take it back so far that, we have kids that aren't eating, you know, we don't want that either, so. And maybe we do it different between the middle school and high school, I don't know.
And we were.
Right, we were doing that differently before.
There wasn't,
And this one has to be done by July, so we have to get this
I know. this
to
one
the
we have
board
to
in
start.
June.
I mean, I think 5 days is,
So I was thinking, I mean, a school week.
yeah. I mean, if the problem right now, it's not 5 days, it's going on for 15 days or longer than that, then a 5-day policy would give people, I think, adequate time, hopefully.
Yep.
so 5 days.
5 meals. So
Five
five
meals.
parentheses and
Right.
meals are
Is that
charged.
6 through
Next one.
12,
Yeah,
Greg?
yeah.
After 5,
After 5.
So right now, I mean, do we have is the high school worse than the middle school for this?
No,
Okay.
there's very, very little problem, probably less than $100 for the entire year of high school.
Okay. So it's really the middle school.
I should mean consecutive there.
Yeah, thank you. Right.
right here.
Because
Yeah,
cumulative
that's the whole
could be-
idea is consecutive,
Right.
yeah, is that we're doing, it's not over. Okay, so for our high school kids, you said that there's only about $100 that we can really
I'm
issue.
sure less than 200.
Okay. So how long? And right now, there's no cutoff. Right now, the high school kids could continue
It's
to
not
charge.
permitted to, supposedly not permitted to charge, is what I believe our current.
Okay,
says.
so if we give them one day, that would be an expansion of where we currently are.
Yes.
Okay.
Middle high school put together, so.
Right, well, that's where we can differentiate between the two then. Okay. Oh, good, Art. We're looking at 808 Art. This is food services, and specifically, we're talking about, if kids don't have money as a part of their account. Okay, what's gonna happen when they go up to the cash register? So, right, and so one of the concerns that the district, that we have is that we have some students that continually don't have money on their account, and the district is being charged for that. Okay, so the policy that we're looking at changes that. The suggestion was for our elementary school kids, they would be given one of the meals, one of the eligible meals. However, they would not be able to get a la carte items. For the middle school and the high school, we've been discussing, the proposed was to give them one regular lunch and then they would not be able to get food beyond that. Currently, there's no limit at all. So we've suggested to do a 5-day occurrence or 5-meal occurrence. So that way, that would hopefully give the families enough time to get things in order, be in contact with the district if they need to apply for free and reduced lunch, or have money to the account, something that they could work something out. I guess that Rob and my concern was 1 day wouldn't be enough. The high school.
Can I pause there?
Yes, please.
Mrs. Brady, if a family did want to apply for free and reduced lunch and they were eligible based upon undue hardship, what would be the turnaround for them to be able to get on that?
I would need to confirm that, but oftentimes it is a very quick process.
It
They
is.
can do it online.
Okay.
If they don't have that capability, it is rushed, so certainly less than a week.
Okay, there's less than 5 days.
Truly it is a situation of families not wanting to apply for reduced. So it's not that.
It's
yeah,
well
it's
within
not-
that 5-day period.
It's not the turnaround time.
Okay.
Right, it's not 2 weeks in.
No.
No, good.
The 5 is good then.
Yeah, the 5 is good. And for the high school, the current policy for the high school is if you don't have money in your account, you're not getting food currently. I mean, that's what it currently is.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It really doesn't at the high school generate problems.
Somebody, right?
Pardon
They
me,
borrow
borrowing
money from
money,
somebody.
or they have their own money, so that's the reason why at the high school it's not,
Right.
it has not been a problem.
And so what we're saying is we could expand it to do the 1 day so the parents would get notification then.
Which is what the change that has been proposed.
Right, would be, yeah. So the only change that we're really talking about is going away from the proposal is to take the middle school and to change that to a 5-meal, consecutive meal process instead of just the one
Right.
meal.
We have to change that, there's a middle school
So we'll
charge
different.
policy and then high school one is
Mhm.
separate,
Yeah, so we'll make two
Understand.
separate categories there.
just for that paragraph.
Yeah, so the middle of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Why do we have consecutive? I mean, if the kids are out.
If you do cumulative,
Is it?
then they could do it 5 different times in a year, and then they would, what would one of the,
5 different times a year isn't going to spark the
no.
No, it's gonna be
concern
separate.
that you put to
Right.
about getting approachable about free and reduced if they qualify.
If the 5, that says if the 5 consecutive meals are charged. Well, if the kid brings a lunch one day. I'm just saying, if the kid brings a lunch, that means the clock starts again?
No, I guess my thought was that the next time they went back to their account, it wouldn't be like the next,
Right.
right, okay, I understand what you mean, yeah.
So we're just copy and pasting this paragraph from under high school and then changing it to 1.
Yeah, we're changing it to 5 for the.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Sarah, you probably go to the elementary, do most kids, my only concern is we're not gonna allow them to get anything in addition to the meal, any à la carte. Is that enough? I mean, sometimes they want.
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about, what's a la carte, right? I know at the elementary school, ice cream is definitely a la carte because I will see some a la carte charges every once in a while. And for multiple things, because we're gonna buy all your friends ice cream too the one day, so.
Right, and you're,
Correct.
Oh, yes, it's wonderful.
Mhm.
Very generous, so, right, so I
You
think
don't
that
see,
that's,
it's not a problem if we don't, they're not permitted?
well, and that's what I think we were talking about, what's a la carte, before you came in here, about what the regular meal is. Because I think the regular meal is like
The free,
a fruit, a
it's the
drink.
reimbursable meal
It's the reimbursable meal, which is the standard meal.
plus milk,
plus
okay, take home.
And that there's not, for a lot of kids, you can put provisions on the account that my child could not get any ice cream, they could not buy these things. And so it's more of a common occurrence where kids come up to the register and they say, you have to put that back, that you can't have that. So it's not the concern of the shaming of, we take everything away but the bread, something like that. It's more of,
Mm-hmm.
it's the snacks or the a la carte items, so.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and you're, yeah.
So
Okay,
So after the high school section.
okay, yeah, and that's in the middle school. So I guess technically the students are permitted to charge, I mean, do we have the word one in there? Because we're kind of permitting them. I mean, I think after the first regular lunch charge, I mean, I guess it's automatic. That's what the school messenger automatically sends notification. I think it's in there somewhere where we talk about school messenger. Yeah, the notification, that's right under there. I mean, what do we do for that first sentence for the middle school charge policy?
Yeah, I mean, I was going back to that too.
Right.
I think we're assuming they can only charge just one meal. Is that why we're adding?
Well, no, I mean, we're going to allow them to
Well, they're
charge
permitted to
five.
charge five.
Five, so I think that should
We
be,
changed
we change that to five up there as well.
in the first sentence.
You gotta get rid of that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. And that's where we have, I mean, we talked about earlier how we can't probably keep it completely confidential, which is why under the negative balance notifications. Yeah, yes. We have students are discreetly notified by the cashier. Because we were saying that at the very beginning, we talked about confidentiality and how it's impossible to have this confidential because you're not going to take the child like into a separate room and have a conversation. So I think discreetly kind of talks about those concerns that we have.
The confidentiality is eligibility for free and reduced. It's
Right.
not, you don't have money in your account.
Exactly.
That's not the confidentiality.
Right, and, yeah, and that's where I guess they were saying, what are we keeping confidential? We can't keep this confidential, but we, at the same time, are gonna be discreet about
Right.
this, okay.
But it is important, especially in elementary school, that after those 5 meals. you need to make
Elementary
sure-
school doesn't have the same,
Elementary doesn't.
elementary
Okay.
doesn't have a limit,
Okay,
so, you're right. It's the middle school where hopefully the kids can communicate to the parents and they'll be, or the kids at least can communicate to the district if needed to, for themselves or teachers or, and that's where the high school's different, because we hope.
are you finding most of these costs are being charged, where?
Middle
what
school.
level? Middle school.
By far.
By far, yeah.
By far.
Very, a few at elementary level.
Right. And high school, they just borrow money or whatever, they don't want.
Or
I guess. And, I mean, we, you know,
I have one question on this Main Street regulation. Actually, it's based upon my own kid's experience. So when someone fraudulently charges, if his kids like to share numbers or they go on something, should that be included in this particular ER as well in terms of how that gets disputed? I guess in terms of when your account is misappropriately charged. So for, I'll give you the example. One of my kids will say their student number, and so someone else will know the line and say, hey, I'm going to get some ice cream, put it on this account number. And it doesn't happen frequently, but
Would they
every once in a
allow you to do
while.
that?
No,
Somebody
but
else
I
is
don't
doing it.
That's what they used to do, but it's
well, or what I usually hear is a situation that's, as Rothman describes, it's that they're buying things for their friends.
yeah.
So, and.
That's fine.
I haven't heard,
That's fine, okay.
I haven't heard that at all,
This
but
was
let me
this
know.
back in the day.
That
Okay.
is,
That's fine. We're covered it.
Yeah, no, that's my concern is my parenting skills.
We're good.
Thank you.
This is good.
Okay. And I think that works.
Is there anything else that needs to be done by July 1st, Michelle?
Yes, the wellness.
Okay, so, but we're good now on 808. We'll put this for approval then on June 14th. That's the date we decided, right? Okay.
We don't need to run with the
Policy.
policy.
No, this is just the reg. All right, so wellness.
retirees coming to the 14th.
When is it?
Is that you?
For 246, the policy as is acceptable to,
Okay.
the administrators. It was when we got into the ARs there, and we chose the goals under each category. We took the PSBA, and I know Ed put it into a format for this, but we took it right from the PSBA, and I sat with the wellness committee. They chose the goals, aligned those with the admin team. There's only one area where we have the need for board input and policy committee.
So the policy of the AR.
The AR,
So,
the policy was,
let me catch him. So last time we were here, we were looking at the AR, and then there's PSBA standard policy, and it was, we wanted to overhaul everything and do it with that. So that was what the decision was, to just kind of overhaul everything, and so that's what Michelle is.
I spent a lot of time with Ed on the phone, so what we did was we transposed all the selections of the committee into this document. So you're not gonna see the ones that we didn't select. We just took those out. But out of the ones that we did select, the one that we just want to make sure we bring to your attention is under physical activity. And it is physical activity shall not be used or withheld solely as a form of punishment. And there is some amongst the administration, particularly the middle school, the idea of like lunch detention and things that had to do associated with you say correction, punishment, that's what was used.
Yeah, and I think that this was, I know this has kind of been in the whole recess debate, where we've talked about how we handle, and I think that, I mean, personally, I think that we don't want to use the physical activity, gym class or anything like that, taking them out as a form of punishment. On the other hand, kids might need a timeout for a minute or two, that, to just remove themselves, or, and so how do we, and I know that the other districts have had policies that allow, that removal for a brief period of time, just to.
Well, it's listed in two spots, physical activity and physical education.
Right, yeah.
Physical education, that's fine. It's in the
Yes.
physical activity piece where we're starting to talk about, can we withhold, I mean, no, everyone agreed that physical activity shall be used, that's just.
Yes,
But withheld as a form of punishment or
Right.
correction. And I think Dr. Wheeler did a really nice job kind of bringing clarity to what the difference between punishment and perhaps providing support.
Restorative practice.
Restorative practice.
Yes.
A principal may keep a child in for recess to do work with the child in a restorative practice, which is different than you didn't do your homework, or your
Yes.
parent didn't sign
Right,
a paper, so you
exactly.
could sit in the classroom.
Yeah, that's.
There are different ways that can be addressed. So I don't want to have a blanket statement about punishment, because there's a difference between punishment and restorative practices as part of our behavior management system. So how do we get that?
And the idea of your interpretation of punishment is
Right.
detention, lunch detention, punishment, or is it restorative? And what does that like, particularly in the middle school, I think that.
And again, I think
that
it's,
clarity.
what's the nexus of it? If you didn't do your homework, are we making calls to parents? That's my question.
Right, or is
So-
it they're during the activity, they kick somebody else during the middle of the
That's
activity, then that's different, then it's, you
Right.
remove yourself for a minute, you don't let that action continue. Okay.
I think another example someone gave was the students absent for 3 days, they come back and they
Yeah.
stay in to catch up on work. Is that restorative or is that punishment? But it's perspective of
Well,
student.
that's a student choice, that to me is not, we can't withhold the activity, based on them not attending school, based on being ill or something like that, they might need the fresh air.
So I guess it comes down to how are we defining this word
Punishment, yes.
I don't want to take the flexibility away from principals.
Okay.
So are you okay with the statement the way it is?
Well, I think that's where, I think that we're gonna have to define punishment in here, if that's, or we're gonna have to
Where is
change the
that?
wording.
Is that in the
It's-
physical ed section?
There's physical activity, it's in both activity and physical ed.
Right there.
The statement's used twice.
Ken, do you have suggestions for how to define that?
In a PE class, it's part of behavior management.
Right,
one, I think,
yeah,
is
That's
fine.
easy.
Yeah, it's exactly.
It's the
It's the recess.
This one?
It's the physical
activity.
I think.
Well, I don't even think it should
You're,
even
no,
be
you're
in
phys ed.
PE.
You're phys ed, keep going.
I don't,
Right above phys ed, it's just a sensory.
I can even take that out.
Got
Right, that's just
Right.
behavior management.
Yeah. We define punishment there.
Or, yeah, or even if we don't define punishment, or maybe use a different term to describe what we're talking about.
They're talking about running laps.
Well, that would be used, yeah, I mean, man, everybody was pretty on the same page with that, it was like hell apart.
What do you think, Ken?
How about as a penalty for violating school rules?
There you go.
Okay, let me catch up here.
That's what we need.
Yes.
Not- Right.
Isn't right here, Lower Marion,
Yes.
aren't they doing a recess policy with something like this
They
in
have a
there?
1-year trial.
Okay.
There's a bit of.
Right, I thought that they were
But I
looking
think
at
it's
some
still
terms.
punishment.
Right, that's what I meant, they used some term in there, and that's what I was
I
wondering.
was punishment, punishment was not as a penalty for violating school rules.
Just so you know, I did receive an email from a parent one day last week with a call me immediately request because their child and other children had misbehaved during recess, and the next day the principal was having recess period with them to work through the restorative exercise on how we need to get along and be friends, etc. And in that case, I had told the parent, I understand their concern, but I endorse what the principal is doing. I don't see that as punishment.
Right, that's different than.
Well, do you think violating school rules, does that capture, they can't be withheld if they forget to bring a paper signed, or if they didn't do their homework? I mean, homework is that a school rule
That's
or
what we
classroom
want
rule?
to, that's what we want to avoid.
Right, but does school rules kind of capture that?
Yeah. Forgetting a paper.
Yeah, not doing your homework, not turning in something that needs to be
I
signed.
would say for violating school rules or failing to complete, failing not policy.
No, that is, it's just hard to see with the font.
It looks like one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see it from here, there's a little tiny, there's the,
Yeah, it looks like.
It is.
I can tell from here.
Okay, or failing to complete
Sign
an
them.
assignment.
I don't think that's capturing what.
Wait, I don't know.
I had a parent who I respect highly share with me that their child was kept in for recess because the parent forgot to sign off on a form. I think we overuse holding students in for recess.
Yeah, that's
I'm
not-
gonna argue that point.
Yeah.
But, why don't we just keep punishment in there, knowing that the principals have, what's the word, discretion. A principal can use their discretion. For restorative practices.
I mean, does the word solely help us? The fact that we're not, is "shall not be used or withheld solely" as a form of punishment? I mean, does that?
What is it that you're afraid you're eliminating, you're taking away from them the way it is now? Because this wouldn't have anything to do with restorative. This would allow for restorative.
Okay.
Right. Using the word solely allows that, right?
If you're violating a school rule and then you're being brought in for a restorative intervention, that makes it sound like, wait a minute, you just brought me That doesn't, that
Well,
doesn't.
then you can say,
I think
this is
you just
not
say-
intended to preclude.
Restorative practices under the supervision.
Well, I don't think that covers this. Let's say a student is being rowdy or distracted in his class, right, in their classroom. And the teacher's like, well, if you're not gonna behave, then you're gonna not have to go to recess. I don't think that covers,
Yeah, that's violating school. Being rowdy in class, or
just distracted, let's just say. Not paying attention. Not necessarily violating the school.
Well,
but-
we want our teachers to do things other than say, no recess, you know, the
Right.
director's on the board.
Yeah.
No, we want them to be prepared, and we're giving a lot of training so they can address that behavior rather than, your name goes on the no recess list on the board.
Yeah.
this is not intended to preclude.
Yeah, what do we want to allow, so.
Restorative practice is during recess.
As judged appropriate by the building principal
Yes.
or designee?
Right.
Does that make sense?
I think we're calling it physical activity in this policy, or regular.
Oh, right, okay, so yeah, but.
Am I adding something at the end there?
Not intended to preclude restorative practices.
During the physical activity?
What,
By the principal or designee?
I
As determined by principal or designee? By the principal or their designee?
I don't think you want to keep going. I don't think you want to say during physical activity. You want to say
I
in
guess
lieu of-
that's it.
Yeah,
In lieu
okay.
of physical activity.
Wish I could see it live.
That makes sense.
I just the one part where it says failure to completely sign this, like one little specific way, where the rest is broadly worded, it just feels like it sticks out like it's like, violating school rules or class or meeting. It's like, I'm,
Right, I agree, it doesn't seem, it seems too specific,
Yeah.
I agree.
classroom school class
Or
rules.
class, yeah. School or classroom rules? Yeah, maybe just school or classroom rules?
Yeah.
I don't know. And when we're talking about restorative practices, what examples can we give? I mean, what are we saying that principals are authorized to do?
So, well, let's.
It is. Conversations,
Taking out the.
filling out a red light, blue, a red light, yellow
Yeah,
light,
there's so
blue
many.
light
I hope
form,
they were taken out down to complete an
a
assignment.
a reflection form for the older kids.
Okay.
Better? Yes.
Yeah, and then are we taking out under PE, at the end of PE, it says the same thing, physical activity, I think we just take that out. Well, I don't even know, I think we just probably eliminate that. Because we're talking about, I mean, PE is,
This?
yeah. I mean, if they're having to have the kid sit for a
We're
minute.
just restating it, so already stated, it doesn't need to even.
Yeah, because I mean, it says, I think we can just eliminate that.
It's physical activity improves physical education.
I mean, is that a punishment right now? You can't participate in gym class because you're acting out in something else?
Can I find it?
I mean, because it's not, because everything else says phys ed, and then this last sentence says physical activity. It was used the same exact line as before.
I think the idea is you're not having kids run laps because they were naughty, but at the same time, as part of an appropriate behavior management plan,
Right.
a teacher may have a child take a seat for a few minutes.
Right, they may throw a ball at someone else's head that they're not supposed to, and they need to sit down for a minute.
Okay, so you have this says bridging both places.
Yeah, that's it, the exact one's the same thing. That's why, like, this is specific, and we're talking specific to the
I think
gym.
that the changes we made the other changes under physical activity, correct? So the
Yes.
question is, do we need to make these changes?
Yeah.
I think this is fine. Why is it, this is okay as written?
I would think so, with the word solely.
But you could say, you could also say, this shall not preclude.
Same
This
sentence.
shall not
Well, it's the classroom.
Well, no, I mean, this shall not preclude a classroom teacher from taking all necessary steps to ensure a safe,
Right.
safety of all children. You say classroom teacher, you say supervising teacher.
Yeah. Because the concern's just a little different in this situation.
And taking all steps necessary to ensure the safety of all students and others present. But this gives them the ability
Yeah.
to just throw a ball at somebody's head and basically take other moves to commit to.
Yeah. Okay. And was that the only point of review that the wellness policy needed us to really look at?
And then,
Other than-
place it in our selections in each category,
Right.
and remove the other ones.
Okay.
The PSBA is pretty, intense, and the expectations and some of the choices that they give you. I think my favorite was consistent nutrition messages, how we demonstrated by avoiding use of unhealthy foods in classroom lesson plans, and school staff avoiding eating less healthy foods in front of students.
That's wonderful.
We took out that second part.
You are not allowed
This
to.
show. Never.
Yeah.
I did have a question on the drinking water clause.
Okay.
If the district is unable to furnish drinking water, let's say, for example, the case that happened in Willow earlier, does that statement okay, or should we add a clause in place when it's not?
It
Are
says
there
drinking
other
water.
school-based activities?
Your water fountains?
Just says drinking water shall be available and accessible to students.
So the water from the water fountain becomes unpotable?
Yeah, or just in
Yeah.
this area.
Yes, I think we should have to do that.
You can't operate a school without.
Safe water, yeah.
Sending kids out or bringing bottled water.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, do we need to add in that language in there right now? Because we're basically saying we're providing drinking water.
Yeah,
We're running
and we will.
safe water, however we do it, it's up to us.
Okay.
We can, if we can safely melt snow, we can do that.
Okay.
We can do this, usually with, it would be either fountains or bottled water.
It's fine. And then actually, Michelle, in regards to the health regulations and stuff, I did notice that it seems as though there's some proposed changes for the health from the presidential administration. Is that going to have impacts? It says, are there going to be impacts for the next school year, regardless of what was?
Well, it seems like what they're gonna do is lift lift
Yeah,
regulations versus
exactly.
imposing any more, so, I mean, do we wanna have a better policy than what? Yeah.
Be less stringent,
Right,
less
So-
restrictive.
right. I mean, I think for now, we'll keep it this way, and then if we wanna,
Was there a question? I'm sorry.
It's okay. Well, I think we're just talking about, they're apparently lessening restrictions next year, I think, for schools and stuff.
yeah, but
At that point, you have to see whether you want to.
we could just ship it McDonald's
I
probably.
would just say, if the restrictions are lessened, we will fall back to the lesser restrictions.
Nah, I think, let's leave it this way, and then if we, alright.
Good.
Alright, so let's put these guys on for, are we doing the policy too? That's what-
So policy would be first reading, right, and AR would be approval?
So if we need to have these done by July, then we can, let's do this will be on June 5th then, for the policy for first reading, because we need to have it,
You can do a second reading.
yeah, we can do second reading, I mean, technically, we could
You
just
can
do it
second
all in
reading,
one,
just
legally,
read
but,
later, right? Doesn't matter.
yes.
Maybe 30 days, right? There may be something. about it.
No, we changed the policy when we looked at the zero and
So long.
2 weeks.
It used to be 2 weeks, but I can double check.
now we changed it, I think, when we were looking at meetings back.
Let's check that.
The AR can be approved, though, right? At June.
And we can change the year anytime. I mean, we normally do it with the second reading.
Not less than 8 calendar days later, I think you actually changed it to then, so
We
that
did.
you could do the June.
Yes.
June.
That's exactly why, I told you, this is what we did, we did it for this purpose, so, yes.
Monday, Tuesday,
Okay, so the policy will be the only policy thing on the agenda
Do you have
for
a
June
meeting,
5th.
do you count the day of the meeting?
Right.
Okay. Monday.
For first reading.
Yeah, and then on June 14th will be second reading and the AR. And the explanation is because we have a July 1st deadline. So, I mean, 'cause I think technically by law, we could actually do it all in one, but let's give people additional time to read it.
Well, I mean, especially
Right.
put the thing into your approval anyway.
For this reason.
Yeah, it's very.
Smart about it, I know, we talked about this though, so.
Early in the morning.
I want to use something that we built in. All right, we don't have, yeah.
324, and I think 345, this room needs to be available for another.
Right, I mean, I think we're done, we can't get into anything else. So, I think that's something that we have to get done for July. So we will,
Food services and.
yeah, so everything else will be back next policy meeting. And the next policy meeting will be determined, we'll figure out if we're gonna have one in the end of June or if we're gonna go to July, so.
Well, the
Jimmy, what-
AR 215 and 221 also, I guess, they don't have to be on there, but they, I ran them by the
Okay.
administrators and they're pretty easy.
Okay, well, I don't think we have time today because we need to get out of here, but we'll get them in before the school year starts. So since they're ARs, then we'll see approval. So those will be at the top of the agenda in the next policy committee meeting, and we'll make sure they are in place for the beginning of the school year. All right, with that, do you have any community input? All right, seeing none, we will be adjourned to our next policy committee meeting to be determined. Thanks.